Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. Believe me, I have a very interesting editorial for you today. For the last couple of months, I have been trying to figure out the different shades of saffron, the different shades of Hinduism, Hindutva. I have been trying to get and understand the mind of a right-winger, that ideology. I spoke to hardliners. I spoke to people like Siriraj Nair, the national spokesperson of Vishwa Hindu Parishad. I spoke to scholars like Dr. Devdutt Patnaik. Today, I have a guest with me. I have a guest who is a product of London School of Economics. He has completed a leadership program from Indian Institute of Management. He is a Vedic scholar. He comes from a very, very respected priest family in Kerala. His name is Rahul Ishwar. In fact, Rahul was an enigma to me because I didn't know where he stood. At times he would speak ultra right. At times he would speak left liberal. So I didn't know where he stood. So I wanted to talk to a person like him to figure out what he thinks about Hindutva, what he thinks about the right-wing ideology. So I invited him to have a chat with me, and quite gracefully he accepted that invitation. This is the interview. It's interesting. Rahul, thank you so much for joining me on my show. Thank you so much. Rahul, I'll get directly to my question. Rahul, do you support Hindu Rashtra?
The word Hindu is a very debatable word. The word Hindu, if I can just elaborate using 30 seconds, the word Hindu, as our Supreme Court says, is a way of life. And Al-Hind was a word used for India by our Arab friends. So Hindu as a civilization is great, but Hindu as a political construct, or Hindu Rashtra as a political construct, I would humbly disagree and differ. We need an Indian Rashtra, not Hindu Rashtra. We, as our national flag, Godse wanted a saffron-only flag and Mahatma Gandhi wanted a tricolor flag. And one of the reasons why Godse said to kill Gandhi was because Gandhiji replaced saffron alone flag with our tricolor flag. I agree with Indian Rashtra more, where we have saffron, white and green.
You have done your Vedic studies. You have written books on Vedas. You come from a family of priests. Very highly respected in Kerala. So if I say that you understand Hinduism, am I right when I say this?
Yeah, you are saying something right. Just because you asked about books, I've taken two of the books I have written. One is Philosophica Vedanta. This is mainly about Mandukya Upanishad. Is one of the most important Upanishad which Adi Shankaracharya or his guru Govinda and Gaudapada also explored. There's another book is about Isha Upanishad. This is about philosophy of Vedanta. So my family, or my maternal grandfather, was the supreme priest of Shabrimala. So there is also a tantric understanding, a tantric background, where my father's lineage comes from more of the Vedic scholars and Vedic understanding. So I believe, even though Hinduism is an ocean, I was able to take some kind of strides in that great ocean.
Rahul, then I want to ask you the next question. This ocean of Hinduism, is it in any kind of danger because of another religion or because of a growing population of any other religion? Is it in any kind of danger?
Yeah. If I'll just take 1 minute to explain, so then only people will get the essence.
You take 4 minutes,
I am
please.
I'm born in a Brahmin community, and when I was growing up, many people in the modern media will know me as a Gandhian. Many people, used to, mockingly call the 21st century Gandhian in Twitter and all, where MK Gandhi or Mahatma Gandhi is many times even an abusive word. See, when a Brahmin forward caste Hindu grows up, there are many misinformation which are fed to him regarding his religion, regarding his culture, regarding his nation. I grew up, it will be interesting for Sujitji to know, when I was growing up, one of my greatest adversary, one of my greatest enemy was a person called Robert Gladwell. When some of my friends used to have enmity with the boyfriends or the girlfriends, boyfriends or the other friends, I used to have this epic hatred towards Robert Gladwell, because I believed he was the person who had a separatist vision of Dravidianism and he mentored it. See, let me be very honest in confessing this. Even I had a phase in my life where, because of the so-called national identity or the nationalism or the idea of nationalism we have, I unconsciously excluded Muslims, Dalits, and Dravidians. And I genuinely believed that excluding the Muslim identity, Dravidian identity, and Dalit identity is my nationalism. I used to mistake myself saying that, I used to argue, even when Kerala High Court conducted a program, they invited me to argue for Uniform Civil Code. I genuinely argued for Uniform Civil Code and I said, Uniform Civil Code will liberate our Muslim women. But the reality, I have never been to Shakhas, I have never been to a part of RSS. But after Gandhiji, I consider Guruji Golwalkar one of my gurus. The same Guruji Golwalkar who at one point of time said, Muslims, Christians and communists are our enemies. He not only said this, he wrote this in a book called Vijaradhara. But the great thing our liberals don't realize is, he changed, he evolved. He evolved into a Gandhian paradigm and he went to the extent. Next is your critical question. 23rd August 1972 organizer. There was an interview by a journalist like yourself, eminent K.R. Malkani, who later became a governor, the longest serving editor of organizer, asking Guruji Golwalkar regarding this. And Guruji Golwalkar says, Uniform Civil Code will destroy India. And the next point is connecting to your answer. Guruji Golwalkar says, there are some people among Hindus who misunderstand that Muslim population is growing disproportionately because Muslims are allowed to marry 4 and they have more children. This is a wrong concept. ये एक negative तरीका है. Or he's end up saying the more important thing in India is Hindu-Muslim brotherhood rather than uniform civil code. And he says this uniformity will destroy India. So what your question touches the soul. I'm thankful that a journalist asked it upfront. There is a wrong notion among Hindu Savarna upper caste, especially Brahmin community and the so-called upper caste Savarna caste, that fear of population replacement is going on. This is a wrong fear. But in order to address a fear, you need not ridicule them. You need not attack our right-wing. I'm a right-wing activist. I keep on telling, I started my right-wing activism when Kerala was ruled by CPM back in 2006 and India was ruled by consecutive UPA governments. I used to get ridiculed, whenever I used to tell about Hindu-Muslim unity because the word Hindu was an anathema for our left liberal, at least many of the left liberal friends. Right now, how the word secular is being villainized. So there is no population replacement happening, but there is a fear among Hindu upper caste and we have to address it. And these Hindu upper caste, don't call them Hindu upper caste, they call themselves nationalists. Guruji Golwalkar was a Hindu hardliner at one point of time, especially in the 1940s, where he went to the extent of saying we know how to silence Gandhi, meaning we know how to kill Gandhi. But he later became a Gandhian. He took an official Diksha from Sri Ramakrishna Mission. He evolved into a moderate, forsaking his earlier position of Christian, Muslim and communist being the enemy. He later realized his positions were faulty and he was influenced by G.D. Savarkar, another hardliner. G.D. Savarkar is the brother of Veera Savarkar, or Ganesh Damodar Savarkar is his name. He later evolved into a Gandhian spectrum and realized Bapu was the right way ahead. And that's the reason why I said,
But sorry to say this, Rahul, the organization that he founded, the organization which is called Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, has no place for Bapu, has no place for Gandhi. So,
there are 2 points.
Isn't that quite strange?
And please don't even, wildly in your imagination that I am doing this to whitewash RSS, I am doing this to sugarcoat things. No, I'm telling you a deeper reality which only an on-ground Hindu activist can realize in 15 to 16 years. I have been to at least 3,000 plus Hindu stages across India, predominantly in South India, and also I traveled across Bombay, Madhya Pradesh, and for giving Hindu speeches. I'll tell you 2 or 3 issues which being a Keralite to Sujit ji can connect to. Just give me a minute so that you will understand the depth of the problem. Even a very senior BJP leader, who I don't want to name in a national level, doesn't know that Guruji Golwalkar used to oppose Uniform Civil Code and emphasized on Hindu-Muslim Brotherhood. And Guruji Golwalkar was the person who included Mahatma Gandhi in the Ekatmata Stotra of RSS. And Guruji Golwalkar later changed his position and told Mahatma Gandhi is the Vishwavandaniya and Pradasmaraniya. These are all documented facts. I have not been to RSS, I am not associated with it, but I have some difference of opinion with them too. But these are facts. Now comes a very important question. Why are the lower level, or why are the RSS affiliated groups in Twitter or social media being very angry or ultra right wing leaning and not towing a moderate line? The Pujaniya Sarsang Chalak Mohan Bhagawatji said, we want Gandhiji kind of Hindus. Now is a very critical question. A person like Sujitji can relate more, which I will just take 1 minute to communicate. See, Kerala is one of the greatest pluralist model in the whole world. We have great number of Hindu community, Muslim community, Christian community. We have Shabarimala, where we first go to a mosque and church before going to a temple. We are one of the beacons of pluralism around the world, where we can celebrate together. In Kerala, there are 55% Hindus, 27% Muslims, around 18.6 to 20% Christians. This is the demography of Kerala. Right now, the next 1 minute is very crucial. I believe these words will open up a new dimension of thinking. Out of the 80% suicide that's happening in the 50+% Hindu community. Out of the 90% family breakdowns that is happening in the 50% Hindu community. Out of 83% drug and alcohol abuse that's happening in the 50% Hindu community. These are not by statistics. These are statistics by a DGP, Dr. C.B. Matthews in Mahatma Gandhi University for his doctorate, where DC Books, a very prominent publisher, has published it in their book Malayali Ingane Marikanavu. So Hindus are facing a population implosion. Please remember this point. Muslims don't have a population explosion, but Hindus are facing a population implosion. Next is the $1 million point, which I would like to ask you as a question. Every day we can go to temple, church, mosque or Gurudwara. Which is that one? Every day we can go, but which is that one particular day our Christian brothers and sisters assemble in their churches for their socio-spiritual gathering? Which is that one particular day of the week they assemble in their churches? Sujitji, please answer
which
that.
Which is a Sunday and a Friday is as far as Muslims are
which
concerned.
is the one day for our Muslim brothers. Which is the one day we Hindus gather to get spiritual education, social unity, mutual networking, helping each other. We don't have a thing like this. Next, I am quoting a Harvard study. Harvard study, which was published in 2016, JAMA Psychiatry, which is available over net. They have said, I mean, broadly, I'm just decorating it in a good way. Just like, for example, I'm using the example of a mobile. Just like a mobile has to be charged once per day, a person or a human being has to be charged at least once a week. So the conclusion of Harvard study is going to a church or a shrine once in a week will reduce your suicide, will reduce your stress, improve your social relationship and improve life in general. We Hindus don't have such a socio-spiritual gathering like our Christians or Muslims. Now comes the most important part. So what happens? Our hardliners cut the Gomata cow by ourselves, then blame it on Muslims to start a riot. And I'm telling this with all responsibility, quoting a specific thing, appreciating Yogi Adityanath for a measure he has taken. I think it was 2017, October 4th, in Uttar Pradesh, they were arrested. Their name were Ram Tiwari and Mangal. That's also reported by Wire elaborately. These two Brahmin boys went and cut the head of a Gomata, which we revere, before a Muharram, blamed it on the Muslims and wanted to start a riot. These people were arrested by Yogi Adityanath. I'm emphasizing that because those right-leaning people who see your show shouldn't mistake this as a secular conspiracy or a Congress or other conspiracy. A so-called hardline image wala, Yogi Adityanath police arrested them. Just two more lines. Can I just take two more lines?
Please.
Yeah. See, why this happens? Because we want an enemy. An imaginary enemy so that we can unite Hindus. We want an imaginary other, an imaginary enemy, a imaginary Gaswa Hind happening, an imaginary, Islamic invasion of India so that we can scare Hindus into unity. After the Gandhi assassination, one of the most horrifying things that happened in India was the rape of a 8-year-old Asifa. See, this girl from a Bakarwal Muslim community, this person called Sanjiram, who belongs to a Brahmin community, and some of the members of his family and other people raped, and the motivation behind that rape was to alienate and push away the Bakarwal Muslim community. Only an evil can do this, and that evil is a core fear of nonsensical fear of population replacement. This is injected because Hindus don't have a natural socio-spiritual unity. So people like me, we work on a very fundamental level where we say the best way to fight communalism is spiritualism. The best way to fight pseudo-nationalism is genuine patriotism and genuine pluralism. Just like there is pseudo-secularism, there is pseudo-nationalism too. We want genuine pluralism and genuine patriotism.
So Rahul, I'll come to that. Rahul, what you just said is we should be inward looking. Hindus should be inward looking rather than searching for enemies outside. The enemies is right within, and it should be inward looking. In fact, the rest of the world is just fine, and it is just that we are trying to search enemies. That's one thing which you said. And the second thing you said is that there is no danger. There is no danger for Hindu population, or the population will be taken.
There is no danger from outside. There is no danger from outside.
Correct.
Inside we have suicides, drug abuse, alcoholism, family breakdowns, lack of care for senior or geriatric issues.
Correct.
These are the 5 empirical data-driven things that I can point out.
Correct. Great, good, Rahul. But Rahul, I need to ask you a question. You say, with a lot of respect and a lot of reverence, you talk about RSS, you talk about the Sangha Parivar. Rahul, tell me, it is the same Sangha Parivar, one of the leaders there, who went and shot a dummy of Mahatma Gandhi, and it is the same Sangha Parivar who talks about Godse, who reveres Godse, who celebrates Godse. So how can you even loosely associate yourself with a Sangha Parivar, a Parivar that says Godse was a great man?
Yeah, 2 things. I have the highest of reverence for RSS, but I strongly differ with them in many points. And please remember, an outsider may feel RSS is a monolithic organization which has a very clear set plan, all powerful. This is the image that RSS has, something like the Muslim Brotherhood, we have in the foreign land. That is not how it is. RSS is just like any Hindu parivar or a Hindu family which is divided, which has many shades of opinion. For example, when Shabarimala issue came, a good percentage of RSS leaders wanted to have young women in Shabarimala because their ulterior motive was uniform civil code. Even people like Subramanya Swami, who associates himself with RSS, said we should use army to push young women inside Shabarimala and then implement uniform civil code. I would say the core Kala Kuta inside our Hindu upper caste mind. I wouldn't take the name of RSS, I wouldn't take the name of Sangh. And being a forward caste guy, I can tell the Kala Kuta poison inside my mind is the uniform civil code narrative, which blocks me from seeing reality as it is. And there is always a mask of nationalism too. And 2 points. Even Gandhiji, what was the Gandhiji's attitude to Godse? 1944 July, when Godse's first assassination attempt to Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhiji requested Godse to come and stay in his ashram for 8 days in Sabarmati. And Gandhiji said, maybe we are having some difference of opinion, let us talk it out. And Godse tried to, and this is again a lie spread by ultra right wing. I am a right winger, but just like Maoists are a threat equally to the left of center spectrum, this urban Nazis or the ultra right wingers are a threat to center right or the moderate right wingers. So what is happening is the extreme right wing is using these occasions or Islamophobia as a mask. And Godse, out of Islamophobia, he killed the greatest Hindu alive. See, that's the reason why I keep on going to RSS stages and pointing this out. Islamophobia is dangerous to us. Out of Islamophobia, he killed the greatest Rambhakt. He killed a genuine Gosam Rakshak. He killed a genuine Dharmik Hindu who used to start his prayer meetings with either Vaishnav Janto or Raghupati Raghava Rajaram. So, but the core anger is the false fear of population replacement by Muslim. That reflects in so many other things. So there is a deep structural problem inside Hindu mind, not RSS mind. The Hindu Savarna mind has the issue. That is reflected in many Hindu organizations. Please remember, earlier Congress used to...
So then, Rahul, are you by some form saying that RSS actually does not represent Hindus? RSS is just representing one small thought process of Hindus or one small group of Hindus? Is that?
There are two strands of Hinduism. I believe Gandhiji represents Hinduism the best. Gandhiji or Swami Vivekananda is the ideal representative of Hindus, whereas Swami Vivekananda goes to the extent of calling our forefathers as lunatics because we were discriminating with the so-called lower caste or our backward caste people. Gandhiji and Vivekananda represent Hinduism the best. The political Hinduism is represented by two people. One, even though Gandhiji has shades of it, Guruji Goldwalkar and Veera Savarkar. Veera Savarkar's line is Hindutva, which is more of an atheistic line. Veera Savarkar was not a believer in God. Veera Savarkar never even cared for cows. But Gandhiji cared for cows. So out of these two lines, I have respect for Veera Savarkar, but the right line to take is an evolved Guruji Goldwalkar's line. Not the earlier Guruji Goldwalkar's line. Guruji Goldwalkar evolved into a true saint and sant where he realized Hindu-Muslim brotherhood is more important than BJP's most important agenda of uniform civil code.
Rahul, sorry. Please.
No. So I'm only saying RSS is an organization, the higher grades and the higher people, they know this reality. I have personally spoken to many one. They have told me personally that we cannot say uniform civil code is bad, even though Guruji said so, because our party has been raising this for the past 25 years and making this a test of nationalism. But I tell them, Popular Front of India is an hardline Islamist organization. More than Popular Front of India, Guruji Goldwalkar opposed uniform civil code. And Guruji says uniform civil code will destroy India. ये राष्ट्र के विनाश के कारण है. Just that we have to invoke this to our RSS BJP friends and bring them back to the line of moderation. Those people who have gone to the hard line.
Rahul, you very passionately speak about Guruji Govalkar. Fair enough, that's your opinion and you all the right to it. But what I do not understand is Guruji Govalkar, if he had evolved so much, if he had changed so much, how could he not change his organizations? How could he not get that same evolution in his organization? Isn't that surprising, Rahul?
Two things. He tried his best. That's why he got Mahatma Gandhi's name into the Pradasmarana or Ekatmata Stotra of RSS. You'll be surprised to know maximum number of Swayamsevaks in their shakhas invoke Gandhi as a part of their Ekatma Sutra. But it is absolutely true. You are 100% correct. When it comes to the lower levels, I know PM Narendra Modi ji has been trying to invoke Gandhi Sankalpa Yatra, invoke Mahatma Gandhi the most. You will be familiar that a good percentage of the ultra right wingers don't agree Mahatma Gandhi is the father of the nation. They don't agree with the whole idea that Mahatma Gandhi is the father of the nation. But people like Modi ji has been continuously highlighting Mahatma Gandhi as the father of the nation, and I genuinely believe Mahatma Gandhi is the father of our nation because
but
he really became a man.
Rahul, I have to stop you here. But unfortunately, the same Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji has never stopped people from celebrating Godse's birthday. Isn't that slightly a dichotomy when you have at one end you say
To be fair to Modi ji, we will remember. Modi ji could have taken a stronger action, but Modi ji said, "I will never forgive Sathi Pragya."
But she is still an MP. She is still an MP in the parliament. So
that's true.
Forgive, what is forgive? What exactly do you expect to happen?
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. See, that's the nuance, shades of saffron position. Modi ji vigorously invokes Bapu, but he realizes that he doesn't address them or he doesn't even confront them. He doesn't applaud them. He has an attitude of let me not get involved into the tug of war, and he likes to take a center right position. I think that's a right position because right wing is growing disproportionately in India, or ultra right wing is growing because of the social media. This Mahatma Gandhi made Jawaharlal Nehru as the prime minister to counterbalance the right wing because
Rahul
have got more votes. Our liberal Nehruji, Panditji was the more left liberal leaning person. So Mahatma Gandhi counterbalance as a matter of political history. So I think Modi ji is doing good because he is ruling as a center right prime minister.
Rahul,
when he is ruling as a center right prime minister, this is the best he can do.
The concept of center right or the concept of center in any form is what? You keep quiet if whatever happens. If there is lynching, you keep quiet. If there is beating up, you keep quiet. If there is somebody celebrating Godse, you keep quiet. Is that being center? Is that what you would call a center? Oh, of course. I will not interfere in that, but I will not say anything against it either. Is that what center is?
But I believe that is center right because that is the only possible way. For example, if a person like Modi ji acknowledges that, that will only increase their face value, just like the mistake Donald Trump did in US, where he was calling out stand down and stand by for the Proud Boys, which is a white supremacist gang. See, it only increases their attention quotient. So the best way is to ignore the Godsewadis.
Rahul, it is not about attention quotient. It is about law. It is about this country. It's about constitution. So somewhere down the line, constitution also plays a role, isn't it? It is constitutionally,
Yeah.
we are a secular country. Our country belongs to everybody. So somewhere down the line, when
Can I point out one thing? See,
Yeah, of course.
See, the word secular was not in our constitution in the initial form.
Yeah.
I genuinely agree with your spirit, but I believe the better articulation would be pluralism. See, Mahatma Gandhi was never a secular person in quotes as we mean today, but Mahatma Gandhi was ready to give and gave his life for the Hindu-Muslim unity. So the word rather in Indian context should be pluralism. I always say whenever I go to right-leaning stages, I'm against secularism. So I get a huge round of applause. And I say, but I'm a strong pluralist. They agree with that too. See, the word secularism has become so lauded in our history that a section of Hindus feel it is something to be used against them. Just like the word nationalism is used against the Muslims, the word secularism has been used against the Hindus. This is a perceived reality of our right-wing friends.
what is your definition of
reason-
secularism? Rahul, what is your definition of secularism?
Pluralism.
What
Just
is your
pluralism.
definition of secularism?
No, and I disagree with the word secularism.
Acha, so
but I would
you have no different definition. You saying that do not use the word secularism, instead use the word pluralism. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. The reason being, I know the classic left liberal or the usual definition of secularism which says state and religion should be apart. That is not possible in a nation like India. Because if our state runs madrasas, our state has devasam boards or different temple organizations. I think these are okay steps and we should have that too. Because then we will also have a hold in the faithfuls and believers' mind too. Of course, with more autonomy to temples, that's a different thing.
Rahul, we are
Western
holding one
of
end of secularism. Secularism primarily also means that any person has the right to practice, preach, and believe in whichever system of life he or she wants to. Isn't that?
My only humble submission would be, as the word is contentious, let us infuse the positive meaning of secularism and also taking the meaning of Sarvadharma Samabhavana into a word pluralism. The reason being, the word secularism has been used many times against us too. I'll give you a small example. Shabarimala, we were fighting for our own right of the temple to have our own systems. Suddenly we were called, you are not secular. I said, how is it not secular? See, the whole idea, or I used to have this tattoo, the swastik tattoo. Suddenly I was called, you are not secular. See, the word secular was used by our left liberals in such a broad way that their whole intention was to get an upper hand over Hindus. Similarly, our right wing uses a word nationalism so that they will have an upper hand over Muslims. These two very important concepts should not be limited to having upper hand and a power play over various communities. So I agree with the spirit of yours. That's the reason why, as a personal choice, I always use the word, I'm a proud pluralist and I am ready to give my life for pluralism and I'm a great patriot. So that the confusion between nationalism and patriotism is not there.
Chalo, let's take that. Let's leave it at that. Now I want to ask you a question. Rahul, what is the difference between Hinduism and Hindutva in your mind?
Yeah, Hindutva is a political ideology that mainly owes its origin to an atheist Veera Savarkar who was not very mindful of our cultural sensibilities, but he wanted more of political unity. But I consider him Veera Savarkar because he spent around 4,000 days of his life for you and me and for our generations. He was in jail for nearly 4,000 days, and Mahatma Gandhi also respected Veera Savarkar for his positive attitude of uplifting our backward community brothers and better Hindu integration. I disagree with the political line of Hindutva. I would never say that I am a Hindutvawadi. I would always say I am a Hinduwadi. I believe Hindutva is a political construct that emerged in the last century, whereas Swami Vivekananda or Mahatma Gandhi all belongs to the spiritual philosophical Hinduism, which should be the Vishwaguru and not political Hindutva.
So the political party,
I go with Hinduism.
The political party that uses that political construct, is that political party right or that political party wrong according to you?
Two things. You'll be surprised to know Guruji Golwalkar had not this much fascination regarding Hindutva. Hindutva is more of a Veera Savarkar line. And Savarkar line is if I can use the word bit more harsh, I don't want to use the word hard. Savarkar line is a bit more harsher line. and Guruji Golwalkar is a bit more
I
softer
go,
line.
I go back to my question, Rahul. My question is not that. My question is, you say that Hindutva is a political construct, which is a hardliner construct, and you do not agree to it. So, do you agree to the party that uses this political construct for their votes? Do you agree to that party?
No, two things. Identity politics is a reality. See, world over, I'm just taking two extra lines so that there is a context. World over, there is a right wing and left wing. Left wing emphasizes on economic issues, fuel hike, food, all the other things, which is very important. But there is also a right wing which emphasizes on identity politics. I studied philosophy. This comes from a deeper debate called nature versus nurture. Nature side are the right wing side, nurture side are the left wing side. For example, in the US, the Republican Party caters more to the white, right, Protestant kind of identity, which is the Trump's core vote bank. So in India, that right wing space is mainly occupied at that point of time in Sardar Patel. Then the right wing economics came with Rajagopal Acharya and his Swatantra Party. Then Janasangh and BJP emerged. They emerged in the more right Hindu construct. The right caste wing parties are there. So I would say a soft Hindutva is okay unless it became hard Hindutva and demeans other community. A soft Hindutva as a part of identity politics is inevitable and unavoidable.
But Rahul, here is where I see dichotomy in thoughts. You see, at one end, you say that Hindutva is a political construct, it's a hardline political construct, and you don't agree to it. But on the other hand, you say it's okay if a political party uses Hindutva, soft, hard, and all those are.
There's a huge variety. There's a huge variety. See, that's the whole.
So Rahul, are we then saying that you are okay with certain variety of Hindutva?
For example, I can give a positive example.
Please.
Mahatma Gandhi was a true Ram Bhakt. We all know.
Yes.
But at the same point of time, when we study Mahatma Gandhi deeply, we also knew or realized that Gandhiji effectively positioned Sri Ram as a cultural icon to unite people. I wouldn't use the word politics with Mahatma Gandhi, but still, the cultural and social mobilization, Mahatma Gandhi intelligently used and garnered the power of Sri Ram in a positive way. See,
Rahul, there is a small difference. Rahul, there is a small difference. Mahatma Gandhi used Sri Ram to unite people. Lokmanya Tilak used Ganesh Utsav to unite people. But then there are certain ideologies who are using Hindutva to divide people. Now that's a difference.
Perfect.
Do you acknowledge that difference?
I totally concede. That's the reason why a soft Hindu approach is okay. Because in a nation where we are 100 crore Hindus, some kind of soft Hindu approach should be there. That's the reason why even Congress was having their election symbol as cow and calf. Congress at one point of time, Indira Gandhi used to have a Vanar Sena. See, Congress was the original soft Hindu party with Muslim League being the Islamic party.
Yes.
So that soft Hindu, right now Narendra Modi is trying to pitch himself into the old Congress mode where there is a soft Hindu line, and Narendra Modi either is purposefully or out of political choice ignoring the hardline section, believing or assuming that they will come to a moderate line. He is neglecting them, because you might remember a campaign in Twitter calling Maulana Modi. Because our ultra right-wing brothers were offended with Narendra Modi and started calling him Maulana Modi. So I believe that soft Hindu, I wouldn't even use the word soft Hindutva, soft Hindu line or spectrum specifically from Gandhiji to Guruji Golwalkar, and evolved Golwalkar is okay. That is the line somebody has to take. Rahul Gandhi knows it too. That's the reason why he called himself a Brahmin. He goes to temples. I think that's a right thing to do. Let us go to temple, church and mosque, because they also are a part of democratic process. That soft Hindu approach should be there. The national audience may not understand, but in our Kerala, there was a person called leader K. Karunakaran. Yes. K. Karunakaran was a huge devotee. Sujit ji, will be recollecting.
Yes.
Karunakaran ji was a huge devotee of Guruvayurappa. At the same point of time, leader Karunakaran knew the importance of going to Guruvayur every Malayalam month, because there is a cultural symbol there. See, there is no issue in using that. There is no issue, in that cultural consolidation.
So Rahul,
I'm only saying about
Rahul, my only submission to you, I appreciate what you're saying, but my only submission to you, whether be it Rahul Gandhi or be it Narendra Modi or be it anybody, using religion for politics is something that, yes, please tell me.
That's a very left liberal kind of an argument. See, in a nation like India, caste and religion politics is a reality. See, it's very easy to say we shouldn't use religion for politics, but identity politics is a reality. So I would say let us harmonize it. See, using religion in politics, even though it sounds wrong, that's a reality of India. So, identity politics, rather than negate it, our left wing friends try to negate it, harmonize it. Let us harmonize. See, I'll tell you the shortest of example, which is the greatest of harmony, which I always believe, I used to pin in my thing. April 13, 1921, father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi, along with Pingali Vengaya, designed our flag, where he explicitly said the saffron color denotes Hindus and Dharmics, that means Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, and the other things. The white denotes Christians, Parsis, and other minorities. The green denotes Muslims. This is the reality of our flag. And the importance of this position is Godse. One of the reasons Godse told to kill Gandhiji was Gandhiji replaced the saffron flag with a tricolor flag. So Gandhiji wanted to harmonize, reconcile different political identities, religion, faith.
Rahul,
This is the only possible thing. One
perfect.
fine morning, tell people,
Perfect. I completely agree to you. Till such time that identities are used to unite, perfect.
Correct.
A flag was used
Correct.
to unite. But when identities
Correct.
are used to divide and policies are formulated to please identities, that is when I think things go wrong. So it's not about left,
can add
liberal, or right. Sorry, say.
If I can add one more word,
Please.
rather than pleasing, purposefully displeasing too. I believe NRC was a very ill-conceived, unnecessary, provocative stuff.
That
And
was my
I
next
was
question.
abused by our ultra right-wingers a lot. I went to a lot of Muslim stages to speak. See, a Muslim youngster, I know how much he will be angry with that. And all these, see, that's the issue. These people who argue about NRC, 90% of them will be forward upper caste Hindus. They will be positioning themselves as casteless nationalists, and they will be telling, and they genuinely believe those who doesn't agree with NRC are anti-nationals. See, that's the catch. That's the serious issue we have. These people genuinely believe, and some people were asking me, are you getting fund from outside to oppose NRC? I at last pointed out, see, even Narendra Modi ji, put NRC in the back burner. Is he also an anti-national? See, these people are given a very wrong impression that Bangladeshis are overpopulating, Bangladeshi Muslim to be precise. Bangladeshis are overpopulating India. Muslim people are having fertility rate exponentially. These are wrongs. So counter them with facts. I'll give you a fact which will be very useful for all the people who are listening. For example, I studied the case of Kerala. Kerala's Muslim fertility rate is only 2.7, which is perfectly okay between the 2 and 3 spectrum. But Kerala's Hindu fertility rate is 1.4. There is the issue. Our right-wingers feel Malappuram is the trouble. No, Malappuram is a perfectly going place, all good place. The real issue or non-perfect place is Trivandrum, where we have maximum number of family breakdowns. Kollam, where we have maximum number of suicides. Pathanamthitta and Chalakudi, where we have maximum number of population dip and alcohol use. These are the real issues we have. So people like me, we work to focus Hindus on genuine issues rather than imaginary issues like Gaswaya Hind. For example, even take the case of Sushant Singh. I'll give you this very convincing example because you will understand it is not about Muslim. It can be a Muslim youngster, Muslim person like Akhlaq. It can be Tabriz. It can be a Brahmin girl, Ria. We want somebody to shout at. We want somebody to get angry. We want some other. We want some enemy. We want somebody to get angry. We want some enemy so that we will feel some kind of worth to this. You might have seen Riya Chakravarti is a Brahmin girl. She is perhaps one of the most victimized, most villainized, most vilified. That too, young girl, 28-year-old young girl. Why? Because our collective upper caste, forward caste Hindu self, which is the majority nationalist narrative, they want somebody to yell at. They want somebody to say you are the villain. And Ria being the head of a drug cartel, Dawood Ibrahim sending people to kill Sushant. The same thing happened in Shashi Tharoor. And I am proud that I am one of the few right-wingers who stood up for Shashi Tharoor, who stood up for Riya Chakravarti, who stood up for Bollywood. Because
Do you know,
99% of my fraternity...
Rahul, do you know, in your own words, you are sounding very much like a left liberal now. Are you aware of that?
Rather, see, that's the good thing I believe about me. Because I proudly wear the hat of being a Hindu. I proudly tell I am a right-winger. I am not even a centrist. I am a right-winger. I work for dharmic causes. I have went to cases. I have been in 18-day jail for the Sabarimala agitation. I have worked for Hindu tribal causes, temple causes. Now, when a person like me says a point, I believe our right-wing circles will look more seriously and take it more in depth into their soul, because then it will not be a liberal or a secular point.
Rahul,
and then I was saying, Some of my friends attack me too, saying that,
Rahul.
are you getting funds from Ria? And
Rahul.
just one more line will be interesting for you. See, the whole narrative behind Sushant and Ria is an imaginary Dawood Ibrahim staying somewhere. See,
Great.
you simply want a Muslim enemy somewhere.
You bet.
And just one more line, which will be academically important too. And I teach philosophy and psychology. See, there is an important psychologist called Abraham Maslow, which we teach for the MBA students. And he says beyond food, sex, and the other security things, there is something called a sense of belongingness, which is a core need of any human being for that matter. We Hindus don't have a sense of belongingness. So we create a sense of other, sense of enemy, so that we can justify our hardline, we can justify our anger, we can justify our chauvinism, and we can show that chauvinism to somebody. It can be a Brahmin girl Ria, it can be a Tabriz, it can be Akhlaq, it can be killing cow ourselves and then blaming it on Muslims, it can be a Christian. So the core issue, which no one else will understand, but Sujitji will understand, the real Nagavalli lies inside ourselves. Nagavalli is a very famous character from a movie called Manichitra Thalu, which has been remade. Bhool Bhulaiya, yeah,
Yes.
the Northy audience might also. The Bhool Bhulaiya, see, please remember Nagavalli, or I don't know the character's name in Bhool Bhulaiya. Bhool Bhulaiya's.
We will show that as we grow. We'll show that character. Don't worry.
Vidya Balan's character. Just one more line. Please remember, Vidya Balan in Bhool Bhulaiya or Shobhana in Nagavalli is not the villain. She is the heroine who has gone rogue. She is the heroine who has been affected with a disease. I was affected with that disease, and I know because I used to empathize with Godse. I used to think I was a part of a Godse Orkut member community. See, I was given the information that Godse killed Gandhiji because he was pained by partition. But later I came to know, back in 1944 itself, Godse was trying to kill Mahatma Gandhi. See, these are the wrong information. Or one more wrong information, which is held dear by our right-wing friends, which Narendra Modi changed. I am appreciating a right-wing leader because that will drive more sense. I used to wrongly believe until few years back that Sanskrit was the oldest language in the world. And people like Robert Gladwell, who generally articulated the Dravidian school, was an enemy of India. But only later I realized that people like Swami Vivekananda pointed out that Tamil is older than Sanskrit, and Narendra Modi said this too. See, this is an issue with a forward upper caste Hindu mind, and we are taught these three core lies. First lie, Sanskrit is the oldest language in the world, which is a lie. The truth is Tamil is older than Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is not even the oldest language in India. Second, Vedas are the source of Hinduism. No, Hinduism is the source of Vedas. Hinduism doesn't arise from Vedas. Rather, Vedas arise from Hinduism. Our temple system, our Tantra system is older than Vedas. Even though I'm a Vedic scholar, this is the truth and reality. The third point, reservation is some kind of a charity to our Dalit brothers. No, reservation was when a Savarna, upper caste Hindu activist Mahatma Gandhi played on his life to convince Baba Saheb Ambedkar to sacrifice communal award, which was given by British, and to accept his proposal. That's how reservation came in. So only when I realized that reservation was for me and my son and my generation too, I will learn to value it. Only when I realized that Tamil is older than Sanskrit and we have a much more deeper and early civilization, I begin to value it. Otherwise, I think these are breaking India forces upon a global conspiracy to destroy India. Great. I used to believe that some years ago. So I am perfectly
Rahul, appreciate your honesty. Absolutely appreciate your honesty. And when I wrote in my social media that I'm going to have a conversation with you, I had huge number of people writing to me asking me to ask you many questions. Unfortunately, most of the questions I can't ask you. We are due to paucity of time. In fact, people wanted to talk to you about, people wanted me to ask you about Sabarimala and a lot of it. Anyway, we will definitely meet once again to answer those questions also. I will request.
If I can just take 30 seconds to answer, which will rekindle your journalist curiosity. I have been in national media for the past 15 years. I am a person who is very responsible for words. So let me say with responsibility for each word upon the God I believe, Swami Ayyappa, Sabarimala case was a conspiracy by ultra right-wing people like Justice Deepak Misra to push uniform civil court narrative. I learned it with great pain, because I spend around 7 to 8 lakh rupees simply by going to Delhi every time and consulting on the case. I spent a good fortune, almost 14 years of my life for this, my time for this. Shabarimala case in the end was people like Justice Deepak Misra who are Brahminical in nature, not Brahmin. Brahmin and Brahminical are like Islam and Islamist. These Brahminical people wanted to have a control over mosque and church, and they want to do it. I kept on saying this, and please remember, this is not a lone voice of Rahul Ishwar, an individual. I convinced Kerala's opposition leader, who is Ramesh Chennithila, who is holding a constitutional post, and Ramesh Chennithila went and gave an official statement saying that it is a conspiracy to implement uniform civil code. And please, for the upper caste Hindus who are listening them to the nationalists, this uniform civil code narrative will hurt and destroy us. Whether it is Jallikattu, whether it is Shabarimala, these are strategies by our own people, our own far right wingers, so that they can get an upper hand over our Muslim brothers, Dalit brothers, and Dravidian brothers. No one else can destroy this nation but our ignorance and our attitude. I hope we will wake up to that and we will save this nation from self-destructing itself.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you so much. I wish I could go on with this interview, but due to paucity of time, I'm sorry. Thank you so
Thank
much. So this was my venture to understand the right-wing mind, the concept of Hindutva, so on and so forth. I want to venture more. Now I want to venture out and figure out and speak to Christian scholars, Muslim scholars. I want to understand their perspective. I want to figure out how all of these perspectives weave into one nation called India. That's going to be my venture. So, till we meet next time, Namaskar.